think this is video number maybe 3 on this Mercedes 1957 300 SL 300. Can't remember the designation, but similar. So you can see we have the old style hang on, like the old Mark IVs from the 1960s right here. They have a sand-in compressor underneath, conventional little beer can style receiver dryer, serpentine style condenser. I believe, I'm just guessing, and we know we should not assume, but this is an old tube and fin evaporator inside of here. There's no literature on the refrigerant charge on the system because this was installed later. And looking at it, it looks like an old Ford Mustang from the 1960s. Like I used to have a 1966 Ford Mustang, and I look at this system, other than it's not a York or a Tecumseh compressor, it's basically a hang-on Mark IV system from the 1960s that my dad used to install, and I've installed a few myself. So I started at 1.5 pounds, 1 pound, 8 ounces. And I have the RPMs up to roughly 1500 RPMs. And I have a clear sight glass. My temperature has been steadily dropping from when I started it right here. Out the dash immediately, it came out like 54 degrees within 20 seconds. And now we're down to 37 degrees. The red line you see is the interior cab temperature, because this does not have a fresh air mode where it's taking air from outside. The two motors, the squirrel cages, there's a squirrel cage on the left and the right of this AC unit where it sucks in air. So where you see that temperature sensor right there, it's right at the inlet of the squirrel cage taking in. So that's the temperature in the red. The cabin air has dropped from 73 degrees to 68 degrees in 3.5 minutes. Sitting in the sun, this vehicle has been sitting in the sun all morning. This has been sitting in the sun for several hours, cooking and baking. All the interior is still hot. Where I'm sitting is hot. Everything's been cooking in the sun. And it has been able to drop that temperature in 4 minutes. 36 degrees out the dash, 66 degrees cabin air temperature. I can't get a superheat or subcool because the way they have these lines mounted, there's just nowhere for me to get my temperature clamps on unless I want to take out my wireless little bill and just work my ass off trying to get connections. So I totally skipped that part, so don't even pay attention to the superheat or subcooling. You see 10 PSI on the low side? That is normal for this old style. Remember the old little brass expansion valves from the 1960s and 70s? That is what's on this system. For this system, 10 and 12 PSI is normal. If you try to keep on squirting the little jerk off Mr. Pro cans in here until it goes into the green and it says 30 PSI or something like that, you will roast this compressor or clutch. And you'll send, and since you only have one of those little jerk off cans with the little pressure gauge on it for the low side, you won't see that the high side's approaching 400 PSI. So do not use the little jerk off Mr. Pro cans on a vehicle like this. You can see I'm taking the temperature right here, and we're down to 35 degrees. And this is winter chicken dinner. So this one's great. I'm gonna leave it at this. I'm not going for, basically, you've done enough of these little kit units over the last 4 decades or so. I've been doing them since I was 12 years old on my first one. You kind of get to know what they're at. Now, even though it's been converted over from R12 to 134, sitting in the sun like here is baking away. Look at our supply temperature. That's doing really good. Let's see. So my customer will get a copy of all this, and you can see we're on the curve is starting to level out. It's not getting any colder than 35.8 degrees is coming out of the dash. So he'll be happy with that. That finishes this vehicle for now, and I'll see you on the next one tomorrow. See you guys.